Some college quarterback power rankings, taking a look at our quarterback, Danny Kanell's top 10. And you'll notice no Arch Manning in this top 10. The number one, Garrett Nussmeier, followed by Carson Beck. Not only is Arch Manning not mentioned by our Danny Kanell, our CBS Sports team doesn't even have Arch mentioned in the top 50 in their latest rankings over on CBSSports.com. Number one might surprise you. We'll get to it in a moment. But regardless, let's talk with our Danny Kanell, ACC Player of the Year, still riding the high of his Seminoles alongside his fellow Cover 3 podcast host and Illinois enthusiast Tom Fornelli. Everyone getting big wins over the weekend except Arch Manning, guys. So let's get into these quarterback rankings here. Danny, we saw there, we've got a new number one. It's LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. Not really a surprise because last week he could have technically been number one, I think, too, in a lot of rankings. But what did you see from Garrett that has you believing he is the best in college football?
Exactly what you wanted to see from him, exactly what Brian Kelly wanted him to do, and that shows some leadership in a really, really tough environment. That's what separated him from everybody else. I thought going into Death Valley, keeping his composure, he took some big hits in that game. Some there were even penalties on. He's limping around, had a touchdown called off the board that might have been in that game, not even as close as it actually was at the final score. But that's what you got. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier has played this game a long time, and I thought most importantly, cleaned up some of the mistakes that he made last year on the road. He had a couple rough interceptions at Texas A&M last year. That was a spot where he was a little bit more prone to make some mistakes. He didn't have any of them, and making some plays with his legs, whether it was getting out of a little bit of trouble, pocket movement, extending plays. I thought Garrett Nussmeier showcased why he's the top of this class.
Yeah, and I think what really stood out about Nussmeier's performance is that he showed what experience can give you at quarterback. Because if you look statistically, it wasn't the most impressive game we saw by far over the weekend from other quarterbacks, but it was in a huge spot where Clemson's defense, their entire game plan was to kind of take away the big play and force LSU to somewhat dink and dunk its way down the field to see if he can do it without making mistakes. We saw a lot of young and experienced quarterbacks facing similar defenses, and they were trying to force balls into coverage that just wasn't there. Garrett, he said, okay, well, if you're going to give me this, I'm going to take it. He was dinking and dunking. If you look at his air yards per attempt in that game, it was only 4.5 yards per attempt. He was not firing the ball down the field. He was happy to take what Clemson was giving him, and they were able to do it consistently to move the ball down the field, put points on the board, and come out of there with a win. And that, to me, is the clear difference between an experienced quarterback and the guys who don't know what they're doing yet.
No one more happy than their coach, Brian Kelly, who finally gets a season-opening win at LSU. They will take on La Tech on Saturday at 7:30 Eastern. We'll see what Nussmeier and the crew can do. Let's go to number two, Danny, where we find Carson Beck, who, by the way, now 3-0 as an underdog in his career. He certainly didn't look like the underdog on Sunday in that matchup. Over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. But I thought, Danny, what was most impressive about Carson was his postgame, where he was very vulnerable in explaining why that win meant so much to him. What did you see out of Carson that leads you to believe that he is number two in college football?
Agreed, Haley. I mean, he's taken a lot of heat, a lot of criticism, even from his old team. You know, Georgia, they could have kept him. They were willing to part ways with him. He had a lot of adversity to overcome, overcoming a major offseason surgery to that throwing arm. But I thought what impressed me most was just poise, composure, presence. I thought he looked maybe more comfortable than anybody in the country operating from within the pocket. Now, a lot of that credit goes to the offensive line because it was pretty clean all night long. But for him to already go in there with Shannon Dawkins' system and look that comfortable, getting through progressions, waiting on guys to get open, I thought that spoke volumes. And we talked about experience with Garrett Nussmeier. Carson Beck, somebody who's played a lot of football, too. 2 years at Georgia. Again, long offseason. Last year, it didn't work out great. He eliminated those interceptions, although the play that C.J. Daniels made might have been not an ill-advised throw. It's one of those throws you're like, oh, no, don't throw that. And then he makes this incredible catch. You're like, well done. Way to go. But overall, I thought he impressed me the most. This was my biggest riser of the entire top 10 here. For him to go all the way up to number two, I think it's one that put the college football world on notice. If they get that type of play, Miami can absolutely win the ACC and make the college football playoff.
Yeah, you know, C.J. Daniels just won one-handed spectacular catch a game, and the Canes are going to be feeling pretty good going forward. Obviously, though, not the only wide receiver with a spectacular catch. You also had Florida with a receiver as well. Vernell Brown III with another dazzling catch there. You have DJ Lagway, Danny, coming in at number 5. Tom, though, I'm wondering, is that a little too high, especially when we think about how little he was available in the preseason?
Oh yeah, this is Gator Danny shining through and through by putting his boy DJ Lagway at number 5. Listen, I'm very high on Lagway. I think his potential is through the roof, but we have seen through his career he's had a difficult time staying healthy. He was injured all off season. He barely had time to practice. He was, for most of the off season, he wasn't even able to throw. So the fact that he was starting in this game, I feel like is a victory. But I do feel like right now 5 is a little high considering that they were facing the Guppies of Long Island University, and you look at his numbers there, 15 to 18 for 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very workmanlike, very efficient, not going to dog it. But I feel like there were some other guys who maybe had better games against tougher opposition this weekend that deserved a little more love than DJ this week.
Don't discount those Sharks. I give him like extra credit for staying healthy and not having to leave the game. He is a big game hunter. He loves hitting that deep football. Watch out. They have an interesting test this week versus USF back at home at the Swamp. But I think DJ Lagway is somebody. This one based more on the big picture of what he could bring this season.
I loved seeing the 2 team photo comparisons where you had Long Island, there was like 12 players, and then all of Florida's in the stand. It was very lopsided. All right, so we got Sawyer Robinson coming in at number 7, but I'm skipping that. I want to talk about Josh Hoover, TCU quarterback who absolutely shredded Bill Belichick's North Carolina. He was so impressive, guys, that our team over at CBSSports.com has him listed as the number 1 quarterback out of all 136 teams. It is Josh Hoover. I mean, Danny, he had a spectacular season last year, over 3,000 passing yards, but number 1?
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I love Josh Hoover. I think he was. I mean, the Big 12 is just littered with quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, all of them who can play. I would say consider the competition. Now, I was just giving DJ Lagway credit for going against LIU, and Josh Hoover looked awesome against North Carolina. But I do wonder if he can sustain that level of play. He did last year. Sonny Dykes' system is very quarterback reliant. He looked really, really solid in that pocket. But I am curious to see what Bill Belichick and that UNC defense does to rebound from that, because he absolutely shredded him. I like that they have him in the top 10. He was one I had just barely on the outside looking in. I don't know if I would have gone away the 1, but he definitely deserves a ton of credit for the job he did.
Yeah, I thought Hoover played great in that win over North Carolina, and it was clear TCU came in that game looking to send a message. They felt like they were overlooked by all the hype surrounding Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, we are the better football team here. Maybe you should spend some time talking about us. And Josh Hoover showed why. This is a kid who I thought took tremendous steps last season as a sophomore, and I was very interested to see what kind of steps he takes going into his junior season, because he is somebody who will be on NFL draft radars. Because you look at the one throw he made in that game where he was rolling out of the pocket to his left, and he fired a ball back across his body along the sidelines with a lot of zip on it that'll get a lot of the NFL draft scouts who were in attendance there going, ooh, because those are the kind of throws you see from Hoover from time to time. He's just got to iron out some of the kinks when it comes to making bad decisions when he's under pressure and just tossing the ball into the middle of the defense.
All right, so Josh Hoover is in. Arch Manning is out. So is Cade Klubnik. Those 2 guys didn't even make the top 50 on this list on CBSSports.com. But Danny, also not in your top 10 as well. Between those 2, Arch and Cade, who in your mind you think needs a bigger bounce back this weekend?
I'll put it this way, Haley. I was more disappointed in Cade Klubnik. I think he needs to take a big step forward compared to expectations. Arch Manning's expectations were off the chart. I didn't think he'd play that great in that game, and sure enough, he didn't. But I thought Cade Klubnik playing at home with all the experience that he's got, with these wide receiving crew, which is supposed to be incredible, an offensive line that's there, I thought he would rise to the occasion. Instead, he vanished, much like he has against some of the best competition the last couple years. Now, the question is, can he replicate what he's done and get better and better and better throughout the season? Statistically, I know he will, and I know where Tom's going to go with this. He's got to play bigger on the biggest stages for me to put him back in this top 10.
Listen, I'm just proud of you for taking him out of the top 10. I was worried you were going to cling a little too heavily to him, but you finally recognized the fact that Cade Klubnik is a bum slayer. Against top 20 teams, he has a completion rate of 58% with 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Compare that to when he plays against everybody else. This is a guy who time and time again has shown that when the opposition gets tough, he is at his worst. Until he starts playing well against the better teams, I am not going to consider him one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country.
Well, the good news is Texas is going to have to bounce back. They got San Jose State, while Clemson is going to take on Troy this weekend. Guys, we certainly appreciate the time. We'll see how these quarterback rankings shake up next week after week 2 has come and gone. In the meantime, stay up to date with the latest headlines in college football with the Cover 3 podcast. Danny and Tom, joined by our other experts, bringing you the latest in college football.